All right, welcome again, everybody. Today we've got a discussion with our vetters. Those are those vetting projects on the Vetter platform. And, a lot of the vetters have done a fantastic job of just doing deep dive, good additional information on projects that bring a lot more value to the entire platform and to people researching projects. I've been really impressed with a lot of the vettings, let's just call them vettings, that have been done. Uh, there have also been concerns about some, and we always knew that this would be part of the process, and that's really what we want to dig into today and get your guys' input on. We had a call with All-Star Voters yesterday, and the All-Star Voters have a lot to do with data integrity. The voting is our best tool. In fact, a really effective tool as we tighten up the screws on that for creating really high quality, high integrity data on the platform, which increases the value of the platform. So super important. And somewhere in the call yesterday, someone had mentioned, and I don't know if I can't remember who it was or if it was somebody who's a vetter, maybe they're on today, but they had mentioned a concern that, right now as it stands or as it's been, there's really no distinction in terms of what one gets compensated if somebody does a really good job vetting versus somebody who does just an okay or a poor job vetting. And so we need to, when it comes to voting integrity, vetting integrity, and scouting integrity, we're going to be working really diligently to increase the integrity. There's different tools that we have that we anticipated needing to be able to, to work with this from a really that's a marketing uh, aspect to this, uh, in order to influence behavior, to kind of weed out those that just aren't the right personalities to create high integrity data in those three categories, and to incentivize and really reward those that have the type of personality where their reputation on the platform matters to them, where, because it's not everybody, but there's a certain group of people that, they like to, that they want to establish a positive, good reputation in within a community that they choose to contribute to. There's a certain personality that isn't just on the take and just looking for the shortest path to get the most money and then move on, but really cares about bringing value to a community. And so we just need to use the tools that we have, including incentives for compensation that are built into this. And maybe it's a reallocation of that in some way. And these are things that, right now the foundation makes these decisions. And again, some of this, it falls under marketing, which of course, Jeremy, Robin, and myself have been voted in to do the marketing and to continue doing the marketing. We need to formalize that vote, but um, a lot of this falls under the marketing umbrella, but some of this starts to bleed over into, decisions that the foundation makes. We'd like to be able to grow the foundation. That will be a separate call. So let's not get into too much into that. I just want you guys to know this is the beginning of a process to get you guys involved in helping us determine the best way to use the tools that we have access to, including, the built-in modes of compensation, so that we're properly rewarding and incentivizing the right people, that are going to be bringing value to this, and are going to be most thoughtful when they vet a project, for example, which is the focus of today's call, as opposed, and really not incentivize those who just don't have the type of personality where, that's suiting them. There's just certain people that they just don't put as much thoughtfulness into developing a solid reputation, as much thoughtfulness, and they just may not have the natural skill set or just natural, tendency to want to do that. We just have to use the tools and the including the compensation to be able to, to attract and maintain a community of vetters that really bring value to the project. And we want to get your input. And again, I'll just say again, we're going to evolve and develop the way we gather this kind of input. This is just the beginning of that process. We don't want to get into that aspect of it because there's a lot still to get in place and work out, and we'll have separate calls with you on that. I just want you to know this is the beginning of a ever evolving and improving process, to get your guys' input on this. Even though this does fall under marketing, perhaps, we want your guys' involvement in making these kinds of decisions. So with that said, I do want to point out, some of you might have woke up to a bit of a shock today that have been maybe voting, vetting, or scouting. I just want to point out for those that maybe missed it, or address for those of you who saw it, that I'll zoom in on this, that we significantly decreased what a lot of the allocations are for voters, vetters, and scouts last night. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, and none of this is permanent. These are part of the tools to accomplish what I just talked about, and there's a lot of tools that we can use. This is one of them to, in this case, to slow down the, to kind of weed out those that right now are gaming the system, because there's a lot of people gaming the system. And we knew that we'd start there. We knew going into this that when we initially launched this dApp, that there's going to be a percentage of people, we didn't know how many, but a sizable group of people, a significant and concerning number of people, who will do the absolute minimum. Well, there'll be two categories. We knew there would be a group that would do the absolute minimum that they could do to get the absolute maximum of vetter they could get, without concern for building a solid reputation, without concern for really adding a lot of value. They're just trying to get as much vetter as they can, which isn't ideal for a number of reasons, because it decreases and degrades the value of the platform, which is not attractive. A lot of people are like asking, when marketing? Well, this is marketing too. We have to get all this resolved. We knew going into it that would be a group that we would have to identify and use our tools to address. And then the other group are people that are just blatantly cheating. And the voters, I don't know of any vetters doing that. Vetters are a more qualified group of people than any of the others in general, or at least it started that way. You had, now I think the all-star voters are also quite qualified, but the vetters are one of the more qualified groups for sure that we work with in the community. But there was that concern raised yesterday that there are some vetters that, maybe it's just a personality, it's not necessarily a bad reflection of their character or anything. I really want to make that clear. Like, some people just are going to be great vetters because they naturally lean towards the types of traits that, just in their personality and stuff that they will be. And others just, it's not really right for them. It's not a good role for them. Even if they tried hard, it might not be a good role for them. That's just the way life is. There's certain things that some people are good at and certain things that they're not. So I think most vetters probably have good intentions, but we need to really dig in and find out, how much of a concern is it? It sounded like somebody raised the question as a voter yesterday, and I'm going to want to get your guys' input today. That there are vetters that just don't bring as much thoughtfulness and work and effort to the vetting as others. And we just want to set this up so that, of course, the tools and the compensation and the incentives that are built in are rewarding those who do bring a lot of extra work and thoughtfulness to it. And it's just not an incentive. The way we set things up, it's just not an incentive for those that it's not a good fit for to be doing it. Because then we're just we're just putting a bunch of vetter out there on the market for them to sell to make an income, but they're not actually bringing value to increasing the value of the dApp. That's not good. So if we're able to compensate and reward and incentivize those that do a phenomenal job and identify who they are or what that is, what that looks like, then now we're increasing the value of the dApp significantly. Now every dollar spent on advertising gets 10x, 20x, 100x the result. So it's super important. I'm not going to say it's easy, but like I said, we spent hours and hours, and I mean like hundreds of hours perhaps, on a lot of nuances to make sure we had the tools in place and anticipated, and we knew we would have to work through this process in some way. So this is a part of all of that. The reason why we decreased the amount that we're paying voters, just for those of you who may also be voters, I know that today's calls for betters, but in case a lot of you had been voting, is because, and yesterday we knew it already, but yesterday really crystallized the fact that there's a lot of people gaming voting, just on the take for Vetter. So we needed to decrease that, to decrease the incentive for them. Now the concern, of course, is, well, what's the incentive for the good voters to keep voting? And over the next few days, that's what we're going to be working on, is how to set it up so that new people who don't have a history or track record of voting kind of have to earn their way up the ladder, and they, when you consider gas fees, a new person might have to actually pay a little bit more than they're getting back, at least in the short run. Obviously, if Vetter goes up, that could change, but might have to earn, let's just say it that way, might have to earn, a role as a, Vetter who could then get compensated a lot. We want to make sure that the good voters are the ones who get compensated more. And we want to make sure the voters that are gaming the system, ultimately don't get compensated at all, at least right now, very, very little. In fact, the type of personality that games the system will definitely stop voting, at least most likely at this point, for right now, while we sort out better and better auditing procedures. The all-star voters, and I know some of you are probably a part of that team and were on yesterday's call, and there's a very extensive process in play right now to weed out the inappropriate voting and blacklist. When I say blacklist, by the way, it has nothing to do with the contract of them being able to buy and sell Vetter. We don't have control over that at all. When I say blacklist, I mean those that have been voting incorrectly, consistently, clearly gaming the system, will be blacklisted from being able to vote at all, or scout or vet. So we're really tightening the screws on that process, and we wanted to lower the amount that's being paid out while we get that figured out. And then over the next couple of days, those that are all-star voters and those that they identify as really good voters, we're going to find ways to compensate them out of the participatory pool, so that the right people that we know are voting correctly and properly, that are bringing value to the entire community and the platform, are getting compensated more, and then less, and actually hopefully soon nothing, is going to people who don't vote effectively, who aren't bringing value to the platform. So that's why we lowered it temporarily. And maybe this will be how it always is. I'm not saying that, but maybe it will always be low. We're going to get a lot of input from voters on separate calls and from the whole community as we sort that out. But it might be that, there's lower payments at these levels. And then once someone becomes, has a history of voting correctly, which we need to identify, like when that is and stuff and what that looks like. But once someone is identified as a good voter, then they enter into, another pool where a significantly higher amount of Vetter is compensated to them than what we could do before, when it was just loosely going out to everybody, including those that were voting poorly. So lots to figure out there, but we're making good headway, and that's why it was lowered for now. If you are a voter, look for more details in the next couple of days about how we're going to compensate significantly more those that vote correctly. And then, similar to the vetting, I don't know, I will say this, with the voting, we were, when we first started out with the dApp, it paid very little, or if not nothing, at a lot of the levels. And then we kind of started paying a little bit, and then we really ratcheted it up. And we, probably should have lowered it a little sooner. I don't know, but it did end up, a lot was coming out of the pool. There's still plenty in there, but we needed to act. It didn't need to be that high. We had way more votes on projects than we needed. We needed to make that adjustment. Vetters, not so bad that way. Like, it hasn't been draining it or anything like that, but it is still concerning. And we lowered this so we could figure out how do we make sure that the great vetters who really put in the work are being properly compensated, and those that are just like not really putting much time or energy into it, but are just basically doing the bare minimum. They're not gaming the system per se, but they're consistently doing the bare minimum, just to get the vetter basically, without a lot of concern about building a really solid reputation and stuff. Like, how do we identify those that are really bringing a lot more value to it and putting that extra time into it? Because that kind of quality is what's going to attract the bigger, users of the platform, uh, which is going to benefit everybody in the community dramatically. So, you know, it's hard to quantify that, but I think everyone can pretty much accept that as fact, that if we have higher quality data consistently, this is going to be a much more successful dApp. And so it's an important thing that for us to tackle. And just while we're tackling that, we wanted to lower the vetter payout, and it's just to kind of motivate everybody to be focused on this, including us, and get it done, get it figured out. And that's a lot of what today is the beginning of, figuring out. I will just mention Scouts. Everything was lowered as well, except for Purple Scout. We obviously need the calendar to continue to have um, projects posted to it, as a fundamental root driver of this whole thing. So while we're figuring out the voting and the vetting and how to compensate those that are doing it properly and effectively, we still wanted to have a decent payout for Scouts, so that the calendar is continually being populated, and this will even increase from here soon. We also made it a little bit more difficult to become a purple vetter, which again, all this right now falls under the umbrella of marketing, but we want to try to get more of community input on these kinds of things that are kind of gray area marketing / admin. So I don't know, Jeremy, has it been changed yet, or it's still in the works of them needing more points to get to green and purple vetter and green and purple scout?
Yeah, it has been changed to 81 and 91.
Okay, so now it used to take, was it 58 points to get to green?
Yeah, I think it was 58 and 81.
51 point, or yeah, 58 points to get to green is what it used to take as a vetter or a scout. Now it takes 81 points to get to green. So quite a jump. It was way too easy to get to green. Again, when we first launched this, we made it easy to get involvement. Now it's about improving quality. And we built these tools into it. And we always told everybody that we would have, that's why we call it AI. It's like, we have all these tools. Eventually we want this all to be kind of automated, but obviously that's a lot from where we are now. And even to build an AI like that, we need to know how it needs to be set up. And so now we are monitoring all of this, and want to start involve you guys in monitoring all this and give input on all these things. But we have a lot of tools to be able to adjust this stuff. And this was one of them. We always, mentioned that we would be calibrating this tool to make sure we're getting quality and improving that quality over time. So so it will be now harder to get to green scout and purple scout. Purple scout now, it used to be 81 to get to purple scout and 81 to get to purple vetter. Now it's 91 points to get to purple scout and 91 points to get to purple vetter. So that will also, I'll just stop there. There's a lot of benefits to that, but we'll just stop there for now and jump back to the real focus of today's call, which is, first, I think I would love to hear from the all-star vetters and from you, Phyllis, about, what maybe you guys have been working on or doing to address, quality assurance of vetting already, if anything, or maybe what discussions or ideas have been shared already in that regard. And then the second, I think, category of today's call, it would be really useful to talk about concerns around, what someone brought up yesterday on the Voter All-Star call, that right as it's been, vetters that put in a lot of work and a lot of quality and a lot of time per vetting a project really don't have any additional compensation or incentive than somebody who's just going through the motions, and not bringing that same level of time and effort to vetting. So I think that's a second category of discussion, is how many others have that concern, have seen that. And then I think the third discussion is, how can we address that? Again, I think I have a lot of ideas on that, but we'll discuss that, I think, in the last part of this, and get your guys' input on that as well. So I think let's first start out, Phyllis, or anyone I'll hand it over to you, Phyllis, but
Sure.
what has been discussed around these areas? Have there been ideas or, anything along these lines?
Yeah, we have started, to be quite honest, though, we started out pretty much very strong in the very beginning. And then when the issue happened with voting, I kind of pulled everybody into the voting aspect so that we can kind of help clean up this. But what we started to work on is identifying, first of all, what constitutes, a good voter, better. And because we also recognized as a group that the vetting performance is really dropped significantly, as well as, we saw that in the scouting as well. But we knew that the scouting would, basically take care of itself. So we started working on, we developed we have a Trello worksheet that we've been working on, what we feel the criteria should be, and what should happen, when things don't happen according to the way they are laid out. So in other words, first of all, a veteran needs to know exactly, what's expected, and then we need to actually monitor that, just like we're doing the voting. And we have to actually, monitor to make sure that those vetters outside of the all-star vetters are monitored, so that we can, decide, is everybody who's in those roles, should they be in those roles? So that's one thing we started to work on, Mike. Like I said, we kind of got sidetracked a little bit. But I'm anxious to also hear, from the other all-star vetters as well. I know they spend a lot of time. We had some people, a part of that process was, we had a few that volunteered to do a vetter, like a live video vetting. So Brinks did that, and so did LDN, Daniel, and I think it was, I'm not sure who else was in there, K-Vetter maybe, and also
JP.
JP, yes, and also we had Kevin. They did some videos so that we can kind of people can go watch and just kind of see a live, vetting, so that they can see, what, because a lot of people who joined Discord a long time ago, we had the luxury of having you going through all the vettings and going through the projects and looking at Telegram, and it was really an awesome learning experience, I know, for me and for all the all-star vetters. So we thought it might be a good opportunity, instead of waiting for us to continue that process, which I know we're going to do. We wanted to get some videos out so people can actually look at them and start to understand what the correct, vetter process, should be. We also looked about doing, excuse me, sorry guys. We also looked into doing some videoing of, I think it was somebody's idea, and I think it's a great idea. It was Ryan's idea, actually, to come up with some real strong videos on, taking a video of the all-star vetters, the ones, and pretty much do like a tips and tricks kind of, video for them, on them, so that people can actually watch and understand and get some direction on, what they do to be, as successful, as they have been, being a vetter. That's something that, we started to, kind of toy around with, which I think is something that really needs to be, done. And the other thing that we looked at as well is we identified there's some people in the group, in our all-star vetter, like John, and also quite a few people, actually, Ryan, and there's a lot of other people now that came to, that are doing exceptionally well, that said that, they would be really happy to do, bi-weekly calls to kind of, help with some, maybe difficult things that are happening out there that people are unsure on how to handle. So there are all the things that are kind of like, in a roundabout way, some of the things that we want to address, but I'd like to hear some other input as well. And my dog is barking, I'm sorry.
But by the way, thank you for that, Phyllis. By the way, before we continue, I just want to mention in the third part, the third category of today's call, where we talked about compensation and how to make sure that those that are bringing high quality vetting are properly recognized and incentivized versus those that may be just going through the motions. Part of that discussion is also the All-Star Trading Club, which, I've been really excited about, and there are issues with that we need to address, and it's going to be part of the third part of this call. I just want to make sure people knew that we weren't going to skip over that. It's an important part of all of this as well. So that'll be in the third part of today's discussion. So anyone, thanks for that, Phyllis. Anyone else? Phyllis, when we get input, I know there's a lot of people that have vetted listening today. When we get this input, though, should we get this from the all-star vetters? Like, will people know who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. We should. And, we have quite a few of them on the call right now. They know who they are. And
Yeah.
I think Brinks already has his hand raised, and, being leaders in the All-Star Vetters, I'm sure they have, some things they want to say. And I think it's a, great way to have people understand who they are as well.
Absolutely. And for those listening in that are vetters, the All-Star Vetters are a group that committed their time, a lot of time, to improving the vetting process. And, there's a lot of stuff for those just listening in maybe to this replay. I just want you to know there's a lot of stuff, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours from literally over 100 really great people who, and the All-Star Vetters being among those, who have been bringing a lot to this project from the very beginning. That a lot of the community just aren't aware of. That is all a part of, answering the question, when marketing, like having a high quality dApp that that will lead people to stick when they land here is just as important, if not more important, than just spending money on advertising. And so this has all been going on, and there's been a lot of people like the All-Star Vetters, some of which you'll hear from right now, who have been committed to this project to increase the value for everybody. I just want everybody in the community to understand that. So thank you, Phyllis, again, and Brinks or anyone else. If you're able to unmute yourself, just go ahead and do that. And I just want to say, make sure you're an All-Star Vetter. If you don't know that you're an All-Star Vetter as opposed to a Vetter, that means you're probably not an All-Star Vetter. We're looking for input from those that have been putting a lot of time, into improving the integrity of the vetting process right now. So go ahead, if you're an All-Star Vetter, go ahead and just unmute yourself and share away.
Hey, Mike, just wanted to say thanks for addressing the changes with all of the payouts and all that, because I woke up this morning and I was like, uh-oh.
Right.
So I did want to talk about that, but glad you could clear that all up for us right at the start of the call. And something that I did put into I forget if it was the Ask Anything or support section, but an idea I had when I was talking with Daniel, what was last week, what was kind of like how Facebook and Instagram have a badge with a check mark that says verified, maybe on like voters, vetters, and scouts that are all-star level, or at least have actually gone through the old training and have been like, but like pretty much the people that got access to the dApp at the very beginning could get some type of badge that shows they're like verified, trained, and then all stars could get like a star icon on their profile somewhere, so people know, okay, this isn't just a random person that holds better that.
I like that, like a badge, like a branded kind of badge star or something. Yeah,
Well,
that's really cool.
that actually fits into what we have had plans for, and I don't want to go too deep into it because it would be a separate call with you guys. But we've thought about having an NFT badge that people would get, would earn, if they've established that they are, well, certainly an all-star voter, an all-star veteran, all-star scout, and there might be a second badge for those that all-star voters, all-star veterans, and all-star scouts have determined, meet a certain criteria of data integrity and of quality. And those NFT badges would give access to a lot of valuable things like, to events that we plan to hold. We want to have an event in Vegas, only Vegas, because it's an easy place for everybody to get to, but even also throughout the world. And would also give them access to certain events and trainings and stuff, like if you have that, and maybe even certain features at some point, but would also give them access to additional rewards, from the participatory and vetter pool. So I don't know if that would be separate from, visualizing what you were discussing there, or if having those NFT badges that kind of represent even more, would also accomplish what you're saying at the same time, of indicating that, hey, this isn't just any random person scouting, voting, or vetting. This is somebody who, meets a really high standard. They could even click and learn about what those standards are that they've met.
Yeah, exactly. Because that would, and then also when that's available, add a filter. So for it, so people can filter by just like all stars or verified or whatever it gets labeled.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I forgot, the only thing I wanted to respond to something else you had said. The only thing that I'm concerned about is having a qualifier be those who were here early, because I think there are still quite a few people that were here early that may know what they're supposed to do, but haven't been doing it. And while there are a lot of people who know what they're supposed to do and have been doing it and even have gone above and beyond that, I do think we need a way to identify, with some kind of certification or some kind of badge, like we're talking about, like you referenced, or maybe it's an NFT badge, to identify those that have proven a historic, a track record for really doing things properly. I'll just use an example that I used before. Some voters aren't necessarily gaming the system in a really nasty way. There are some who are, that we're taking care of, but some are kind of in a gray area where they are gaming the system, and they're obviously on the take for as much vetter as they can grab and offering as little value as possible. But it's like not somebody that I would want to blacklist or anything from being able to vote. Like we'd want to kind of try to train them or incentivize them to do a better job. But I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't want them, just because they've been here from the beginning, of having that special badge, if they've clearly consistently, not been, really doing, a good job voting. So, and then vetters as well. Somebody had mentioned on yesterday's call, there are vetters that just go through the motions. And even they sometimes are getting like good positive votes because people get paid to vote. And we're addressing all of this. But just because someone's been here from the beginning as a vetter, I think there needs to be additional qualifications before they would get that badge or that certification. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I more just meant because like how but by the beginning I mean more but before we even had better, but like before the private sale was even there, when we had that strict requirement in the
Right.
Like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, we could consider something like that. I get it, and we don't have to resolve it all right now, but I would want to dig into whether, what percentage of those people, I mean, we're not going to know exactly, but to get an idea of, how many of those people are really, doing, are among those vetters that are doing an exceptional job, and how many are among those that maybe went through that training that, maybe aren't. If like, a huge percentage of those are among those that are doing a fantastic job, and none, or close to none, are doing, just going through the motions, then yeah, then I think so. I think we just want to look at that before we would slap, invest all that time into slapping on a certification logo, just to make sure it really means something. Yeah.
And also another thing could be waiting until because I know the voters are working on really cleaning up the ranks and really getting people to where they should be at. So maybe wait until they hit purple, and then they can somehow apply it through the Discord to get verified and trained. Make sure that like have someone look at a couple of their posts and be like, okay, you're good enough, or okay, you need a little bit of work, but you're doing good for the most part, and just give some advice.
Yeah,
That way.
absolutely. My only concerns are costs, right? Like when you have people one-on-one, like we did before, looking individually at people's work, costs skyrocket. And so I just want to make sure, that I want to see if we are able to keep costs manageable, and maybe even automate the process as much as possible. That's my only concern. I don't know the answer to it, or, what the cost would even be. I just know whenever you bring in individuals, it's amazing, to manually, with their time, spending hours, the costs skyrocket. So we need to try to set all of this up so that creating a high integrity, training system for vetters is not cost prohibitive. But I agree that what we had before was awesome, and any aspect that we can afford to duplicate on that would be fantastic. So we're
I can
definitely
add on to that, Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, it's JP. Hey, yeah, to add on to that, yeah, we talked about streamlining the training, like basically having like a high quality recorded series for new vetters having to watch, and like being short videos that they have to go through before they can vet on the app. So we talked about that, and we also talked about them coming in as like a batch of new vetters, or if they're constantly going to be coming in. We also talked about having trainings once or twice a week for people that want to get better at vetting.
Yeah.
And
And
then
by the way, as you're speaking, JP, and just also reflecting on what Brink said,
yeah,
I just wanted to say we could charge people to join the vetter certification, and that could be what compensates those providing that training, so that we're attracting the type of people that actually want to learn, and because it's not just learning stuff that helps vetter. What they learn obviously helps them in their own trading and their understanding of crypto. So that could be an option of solving that problem too. I just wanted to mention that, to end what I was saying there about the concern of cost.
oh yeah, tie it back into what Brink was saying. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, also,
And then,
what you're saying, you're talking about all this training.
yeah.
I just want people
Yeah.
to know that we don't have to rule out, the personalization of training being involved. And I think maybe the answer to that could be we charge those vetters who want to get trained on how to become a vetter. And that could be how
I see what you're saying. Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And what we talked about before was maybe making it an optional thing. not like a required, because that would be cost prohibitive, but just for people that wanted to get better, the cream will rise to the top. But I like your idea too of having to pay. And then also we talked about having a way to communicate to people that were doing poor quality vetting, either on the dApp or on the Discord, and being able to talk to them and having like the 3-strike program before they can't vet anymore. So those were just a few things I want to add to what Phyllis was talking about.
Yeah, thanks for that. So in case you guys don't know, as part of that, there are 2 different statuses in the dApp for vetters. There's trial vetters and vetters, even though I don't think that that's seen on the dApp externally by the public. Internally in the database and behind the scenes in the admin section, there are those 2 distinctions. And that was again an example of the kinds of tools we built in preemptively and to anticipate all of this that we're going to need to do to increase quality as we go, after we got it launched and released and went forward. So there's trial vetters and then there's vetters, and in the admin, the vetters, Phyllis literally has the ability to move someone from vetter and downgrade them to trial vetter, or to remove them as vetter, and then they wouldn't be able to vet. So I just wanted you guys to know that's another tool that's in our disposal to help bring accountability and increase quality of the vetting.
Hey, I wanted to jump in real quick if
Yeah,
I
go
could.
ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Mike. So just to jump on a couple of things, when there was a mention of the batch of vetters, I think from JP, one of the things that we had discussed was maybe it'd be a certain amount of people per given time frame when we look at onboarding new people. The other thing that I wanted to address was we want to look at getting more into automation. So I think there was also a comment in regards to streamlining the class so that we're not doing so much micromanagement. There's always going to have to be an element of human interaction with this, but obviously as we get moving again and the numbers grow, we need to set ourselves up for success so that we can not only continue to maintain the integrity of the platform, but making sure that we can have systems in place where we can do that effectively. Quality standard checks, I think, is something we need to think about. And then it's not my idea, but somebody had mentioned this in one of our meetings, but collaborating with scouts in regards to other chains so that we know what we're looking for in terms of the vetting reports. But given that we just had a training on the NFTs, we could actually do it like that, where somebody that's experienced with these different chains could provide that type of training, and then we in turn would obviously know what to look for. So at this time, that's just what I wanted to contribute to this discussion.
Awesome. Thank you for that. There was a lot packed in there, so we'll probably want to unwrap some of that and discuss each item that you mentioned in more detail, but that was all really, really good stuff. A little bit connected to what JP said and what you said, when you talk about collaboration, and JP also talked about maybe being able to message somebody. You talked about collaboration between vetters and scouts. JP talked about, being able to message somebody to give them a warning if they did a really poor job vetting, for example. Part of that, and I think you were talking about a larger scope when you talked about collaboration, but part of that can begin with the messaging system. It directly answers to what JP was talking about with a senior vetter warning maybe a new vetter that their vetting wasn't up to par, and maybe they get their first strike or something. And in your case, this could start to address some element of collaboration behind the scenes at a greater level. So Jeremy, where are we at with the messaging system? And we've got some components of the messaging. We can do broadcast messaging from admin. Is this something that's kind of been so far pretty distant as far as, or has it been on your mind closer, or is it in development already where, for example, a vetter, somebody who's an actual vetter might be able to message a trial vetter to give them a warning a first strike that their vetting wasn't a good, it didn't do a good job. It's just one example. There's a lot of different aspects to this messaging, but I'll just ask that specific question. Yeah.
We do have the base mechanics for any type of messaging we want to do. It's just a matter of if we decided something like, vetters have the ability to message each other or something, we have to build that into the interface to allow for it. And, one thing I want to say though too is because vetters are in a unique situation, they are all in the Discord. I mean, you still have a means right now of talking about these things even before we have that built. So I just want to throw that out there.
No, you're absolutely right. I was going to just say that same thing.
They would have to know their Discord username to send them a message saying, hey, this vetting post you did doesn't meet the standards. This is your first strike. Like if they were to send a message, and obviously it might be written a little bit better than that, but a message like that would be hard to send in Discord because they'd have to know their Discord username.
Yeah, I agree. There's a little bit of admin there. The admin user, so Phyllis, for example, can see what their Discord name is in the background as long as everybody has that on their profile, which I think was required when you're a vetter to have all of your details filled in on the user.
I'm just concerned if there's that much friction doing it, will a vetter take the time to do it as opposed to they see a bad vetting. They're there right now in the dApp. They want to get to doing some research and some investing themselves, but they see a poor vetting. They just click, it automatically has a message, built
right.
in.
No. I'm not trying to absolve us of doing work. I'm saying at least we have a mechanism now until that's in place.
Well, I hear you. I guess I'm just saying I don't think anyone will do it.
Okay.
I doubt. I think people will say they want to do it. But just knowing human nature, I think it's too much. Taking them off the dApp, I just don't think we're going to see it get done. But that's not to say it's the highest priority among the 500 cards that we have to implement on the dApp. We'll need to discuss that. I know we're meeting.
Exactly. It's just a matter of priority.
Yeah. But the framework is there to be able to, if we decided to be able to add that fairly easily. It's just a matter of priority with a huge list of other things. So
right, some things have priority because there is no alternative, whereas this at least has an alternative, was all I was mentioning.
Right. And then as far, there are some issues with letting members message members, right? Like all kinds of spam type stuff can take hold. So I am kind of thinking, I'm just talking out loud here, that when we do set up initial, develop more messaging, it's going to be like trusted people, like all-star vetters are able to message, other vetters, but, and all-star voters maybe can message people, but I don't know that we want everybody to be able to message everybody. You're going to get a lot of spamming.
Exactly. That's been the biggest concern about turning on general messaging.
Right.
And even specific messaging could be potentially abused. So yeah, we just had to come up with what those rules, what that criteria is for who's allowed to message who. And we have like I said, the backbone of being able to do it is in place.
And thanks for that. Who was the last gentleman that was speaking?
That was
Were
Dan.
you talking about me?
Dan, yeah.
Yeah.
Dan, when you talked about scouts collaborating with vetters, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Well, like I said, it wasn't necessarily my idea, but I got it when it was articulated. And ultimately, like for me, I don't really know much about the Solana chain. Okay. So if someone were to do a vetting on that, I don't know. I can't tell you that I could speak confidently to being able to assess that vetting.
Right.
Because that's not really where I live in terms of the chains that I typically work with. So, but like what we saw in the NFT training, it's very informative. And I mean, I think we're all aware of the NFT space, but there's a lot to know about that space.
Yeah,
And so as that training,
there is. There is.
absolutely. So as that training went on, I was like, wow. And even just yesterday, I was in a meeting where I heard about, scholarships, regards to NFT where you can rent them out. So that was interesting too. I had never heard of that. But my whole point in regards to collaborating with the scouts is that clearly there's somebody, because we've got a lot of talent on this platform
Yeah.
that knows about that can provide a training, kind of like, I guess, teach the teacher kind of thing. And so that can go ahead and help us understand what we can look for so that we're more informed when we look at vetting reports, to know exactly what makes a good vetting report as opposed to what's just general information being placed in that report.
I can add to that, Mike, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
that idea was, came out of our group that we were discussing. I think part of that is absolutely correct what you're saying, Dan. The other part that was added to that was, as we start to, when you start to do the biweekly calls and we're doing recommendations on, not recommendations, but when we're looking at like different projects out there that are, hot right now. And what we thought in the group, that's when the scouts can actually really collaborate with the vetters, because then the scouts, have scouted out these projects, and then if they can collaboratively work with the vetters, the all-star vetters, so to speak, so they can go out and, do their thing. And so that they're kind of like this exchange of information that would be going back and forth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Though when you talk about that exchange of information, like where, right now that happens in the Discord. Obviously the Discord is like a membership that's separate from Better.
That is true. And
We've
that's
just been using because it benefits Better so much. Do you think that could happen in the Telegram, or do you think like, when we talk about the like a future like Discord, set up for maybe these kinds of things, like that is where that would happen, or
yeah, I've been giving a little bit of thought to that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the Telegram group as we have it right now would be effective. But I'm not quite sure. But I was just thinking about, the thought process is, as we start to do partner expansions, and I'm seeing as the all-star scouts and all-star vetters and the all-star voters become more seasoned and more confident in what they do, they're going to be reaching out and they're going to be learning about some different devs and projects. And there's going to want to be, I'm sure there's going to be some collaboration that's going to want to happen somehow, when we start. I'm thinking like down the road when we start doing AMAs and.
Yeah, but I guess in the meantime, I mean, we did have another call a few weeks back where there was an informal vote that, it was pretty unanimous. I mean, I think there might have been one person out of 100 who didn't agree, but 99 sounded like agreed that we could use the current Discord. I think most of the people that are most, that really know what's going on with the project are in the Discord, that are collaborators. Maybe that's going to change. I don't know, but that's certainly the case now. So I think it makes sense, unless anyone disagrees, that for now, because there's so much to do, we continue to use the Discord we have now, to that isn't Vetter per se, but obviously Vetter was created out of what we learned in there and stuff. We could just use that. I mean, Phyllis, does that make sense that we just continue to use that for now until we can figure out an alternative?
Absolutely. I'm just trying to, I'm just thinking, more big picture, and that's kind of what we were doing as a group, kind of talking about, like bigger picture type things for the community, Vetter community, scout community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to remember what came to mind when Dan was running through some of those things. Maybe to come back to me.
Maybe one of the things he had mentioned, and we had talked about it extensively, because we're right, it can become extremely costly to have a lot of human interaction all the time when it comes to training and etc. So I think, the process that I believe that you used coming onto the actual Discord itself, where there was a paid, fee where you learned, you had different videos that people took and that would learn the ins and outs of what we had to do. We kind of talked about that kind of similar atmosphere as well, from
Yeah.
the training aspect.
That
so
could be in the video vault, for example.
Right. So that it wasn't just, we're constantly like micromanaging and hand holding,
Right.
every single person, because it becomes not only it becomes ineffective too, because
Yeah.
then people are micromanaged and it's just
I was thinking that like at tier 3 and 4, they would have access to that in the video vault, like where they would have access when they reach a certain level of being a better holder, because it means they're more serious in terms of like giving them access to that. Whereas if they're at tier 1 or 2, it's like, why would we give them the goods?
I guess I was talking more about the vetter part, because the vetters have to be a part of.
That's what I mean. So
Oh,
if they're at tiers 3 and 4 of holding better, when they reach those levels, then it unlocks the video vault section for those tiers, which then gives them access to those types of trainings. Whereas, my perspective being a vetter, like way early on when we started, like I, for whatever reason, can call rug pulls, even though I don't want to do that. I'm just like, this is a rug pull and I hate to say it. And so I have a vision that as a vetter with those videos that will really give people like insider information, which is what the Discord, like you're saying, Phyllis, is for.
What do you mean insider information?
So there's a lot of people who are using the platform who like want a free meal and then go out to other groups or other communities and start saying, here's how you vet, kind of thing. And I'm saying to keep it more selective in terms of those videos of sharing like high quality trainings of like, here's how you actually can spot a rug pull. It's like the way that it would be articulated in the video vault is like, it's highly valuable. So I'm saying to make it available for people who are at a higher level.
I mean, man, there's so much to dig into, but like, for example, the idea of awarding NFTs for people who do certain things, like we only talked a moment ago about like the highest level NFTs, but there could be other NFTs that people earn, for example, for voting effectively for a period of time and earning maybe purple rank as a voter, which is going to be harder to do now. And then, they don't make a lot perhaps getting to purple, but they're kind of earning their wings, and then they could get an NFT at that level that will allow them to open up the vetter training. And then they could progress to, not only learning how to vet projects, which is extremely valuable to them as an individual for their own use, but then they would know they could also choose to then move up the ladder further and possibly apply to become a vetter. So it kind of fits with what you're saying, Robin, where, that kind of training, and there'd be other kinds of training too, unlocks at a certain point. But I don't know that would unlock just because you're at tier 3 or 4. I think it would unlock if you would have to be at tier 3 or 4, but also you've earned an NFT by, successfully voting on enough projects, showing that you're
I like that. Yeah.
contributor. And that would give them more, incentive to something, to more gamification with education, more incentive to do things, to provide value, to do a good job. They would know that reputation matters because they know that, there's quality control here, that they're not going to get that badge unless they've become a purple voter, for example, or a purple scout, whatever the qualification is. I just want to say one other thing about this, because we keep talking about as we grow. A few people have mentioned like as we grow, we need to, and I agree with that. We want to automate, and I think a lot of the ideas that we're sharing definitely accomplishes that, allows us to automate the process of attracting the right kinds of people. But I just want to say, I don't know that we need that many vetters. You know, we don't need an endless amount of vetters. There's only going to be so many projects that, you know, are going to be on the calendar. There's only so many projects. There's a you know, a quantifiable limited amount of projects that are launching, and that may increase, but you know, the number of people joining the community will be significantly greater than the need we have for more vetters. Like as the community grows, we don't have the same proportionate need for scaling up the need for vetters, because there's only so many projects to vet. So while I do think we'll need an on-ramping process, you know, because maybe older seasoned vetters will drop off, and et cetera, you know, I do think that we have a really good community of vetters right now. We don't need to add on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new vetters. I just want to mention that. I don't think that that's going to be necessary. If somebody sees it differently, let me know, but I just don't think we're going to need to scale the growth of vetters anywhere close to the proportion of growth of community members or people that are using the dApp.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to match that growth. So what we
Yeah.
really want to do is look at quality over quantity when we're talking about vetters. And even though, again, we do need to on-ramp new vetters in some way, we can slow that process down. We can make it so that it's harder to do, make it so people have to earn their wings, not pay so much money for a random vetter, have more of the compensation go towards the vetters that have proven themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then one other thing that I did remember what I wanted to say when Dan was talking about trainings. You know, he talked about the NFT training recently that he felt was really valuable, that he felt, you know, added a lot of value to his knowledge base to be able to maybe even vet better. And he didn't, Dan, you didn't, I don't know if you said it directly, but you were really kind of also speaking to, you know, the greater amount of value that's available because, and you did say, because there's so much depth of knowledge collectively in this community. And you were kind of speaking to, you know, giving more access to that, which will increase the value of everything. And I just wanted to say the NFT training concept, you know, the NFT badge that people can earn in various ways, it maybe be lower tier NFTs like I was just talking about that a new person can earn to unlock certain trainings to move up the ladder further. That speaks to it. And then I also talked about like a high tier NFT badge that like all-star vetters, all-star voters, all-star scouts would earn to give them like a lot of access, including access to additional compensation incentives. I just wanted to say that definitely connects directly to what you were speaking to, like with the NFT training that happened the other day. We're trying to also work into that model that I just described, a framework where valuable people who have value to train on, like, you know, Cesar did in that NFT training recently. In fact, we've been talking with Cesar about this, would be able to get compensated for doing training. So in other words, when somebody earns a badge, that would give them free access to this training, but people would also be able to buy NFT. They wouldn't be able to buy all NFT badges. Some of them you have to earn, like many of the ones we were just talking about, but some of them you could purchase in order to get access to an NFT training like that, or to get access to a training on Solana, or to get access to, you know, a getting started training, you know, that might have like, you know, a limit of 100 people on an event. And this would allow the framework to compensate those trainers and, you know, have and this could be added to the video vault, et cetera, that could be unlocked if you have that NFT. So I just wanted to mention that we've been putting a lot of discussion into that so that we can tap into this incredible knowledge base that is within our community and give them incentives to organize and structure and invest more time into bringing their knowledge in an organized format, you know, to the community.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the things that you said that really stood out the most to me was that the NFTs would provide exclusivity, a certain type of access. Yeah. And so let's say for a training, there were only going to be 10 seats available. all of a sudden getting that NFT
Exactly.
becomes a really big deal. You
Exactly.
know what I
And-
mean? So
yeah. And some of those NFTs would be able to be resold as well, but it would be,
absolutely.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now,
So-
obviously, the OG NFTs that you earn wouldn't be able to be resold. They wouldn't want an all-star vetter to be able to sell the, their NFT badge, even if it's very valuable, because it gives access to like the Vegas event. It gives access to, compensation advantages. We wouldn't want that to be able to be resold, obviously, because that's
Yeah.
something somebody would have to earn. But there'll be other ones that people could purchase to get access to trainers that could be resold for someone. Maybe someone else wants to now get access to those trainings on, on NFTs or whatever. Anyone else want to share, kind of like Dan and JP and Brinks did, and Phyllis did, and and Robin, and just when you want to, chime in on anything that hasn't come up yet, or anything that comes to mind. Yeah, go ahead. Who's this?
Yeah, it's Louise, Crypto
Oh, hi.
Gal.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. I just want to say that these ideas that are coming up, I'm getting more and more excited about. I love the idea of the NFTs, but a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, and one was the Discord, the communication between the Discord and the dApp. If we have vetters, they have to be a part of the Discord.
Right.
Could we possibly make it so that they have the same avatar or name on both as they come into the Discord? That would be the criteria. Is it would have to match up with their
I think it could be a good idea. I don't know if there's ever a case where somebody wouldn't want to do that for any reason that I'm not getting, but it seems like a really good idea. Does anybody else have
You mean their usernames?
yeah.
She's suggesting that their username that
Mine is, yeah, so my username in Vetter is kind of a anonymous-ish name. My username in the Discord is Robin Lynn, but I didn't want to use Robin Lynn for the Vetter. I wanted it to be a little bit more mysterious. So I wouldn't, yeah, I would say that probably wouldn't be.
Is there a reason for that? Or I mean, I don't, you don't need to answer.
Yeah, I just,
you don't need to answer that. I guess that's the one piece. Possibly, right? Some people might want to have an anonymous name. They still want to build a reputation, but for the general community, I mean, I guess it makes sense when you see how many nasties there are, right? There are a lot of nasty people out there. Some of us have run into them. And
I just didn't. I wanted to be able to vet and have.
Some people seem to get nastier when there's not face-to-face communication. We see that a lot in social media. So I guess that could be one reason why some people might want anonymous when they're posting and stuff on the Vetter board. I don't know.
Well, it's just like, if you have a project that you think is awesome, but you don't really know what it's going to do. And, it just opens up a can of worms if it doesn't do well, or even if it does do well, it's like,
right.
Being kind of spotlighted on doesn't.
But the other option, Robin, is you change your Discord name to not be your name.
But that wouldn't make sense, because then people would know who I am.
Well, the people you want to would, the people that are in the community would, but it might make it better. You wouldn't get so many random, ridiculous, questions all the time from people who haven't earned your time. If only the all-star voters, all-star vetters, all-star scouts, and people that have been OG community members would know who you were, as opposed to everybody. You know what I mean?
I just think when you're a leader in the community, like not just myself, but like Louise or whatever, it's like, all of you guys, it's, I feel like the Discord is the place where we're like, oh, okay, I can communicate with you as myself, and we're having conversations. We're kind of more close, more intimate. But on the Vetter board, it's more like, I don't really need to disclose who I am to do what I do. So I just see that there's like, I don't see how we can say your name should be the same, because that, do you know what I'm saying? I just don't see.
I'm just thinking of it as a a good way of communication and education, you know,
It would be easier. I
by
just,
helping them, mentoring them right on the spot. It would just be so much easier and going.
Louise, what if it's a recommendation for those that want that extra benefit?
I'm not getting that.
Recommend they use the same username in both places so that they can
Yeah,
benefit from those things.
yeah, so that they could get some guidance.
But if they don't
know,
want to, then,
firsthand.
you know, obviously it would be that much harder to help them.
Well,
Another
yeah,
option, because I think most people, like Robin said, are okay with knowing who each other is in the Discord, but not necessarily on the
Right.
platform. You could take your platform name and add that in parentheses on your Discord name, and that way
Okay.
you can see
That would-
both.
That's a good
Okay.
in between.
Yeah.
all right,
that
Jeremy.
would be great.
Jeremy comes in. All right. I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Love it.
I would say that.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah,
a good compromise.
that sounds cool.
Are there any vetters on the call, including those that may not be all-star vetters? I just want to make sure we get all vetter voices because we might be missing something. Is there anybody that would not feel comfortable if that was a requirement to be a vetter for the sake of improving communication, improving senior vetters' ability to help junior vetters and everything in between? Is there anybody that would not feel comfortable having their Discord username, you know, be the same name or to put the parentheses in the Discord of what you're using as your username on vetter platform, so that in the Discord people could work with you better?
I have no.
Anyone here who's uncomfortable with it?
Yeah, anyone uncomfortable? I just want to make sure we get all input on this because it sounds like if we don't, you know, hear otherwise, then it sounds like everyone's in agreement so far that would be a requirement so that to help increase quality of vetting, right? And the vetter communication and, you know, value all around. But maybe we're missing something. So go ahead and unmute yourself. Don't raise your hand. Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, this is Orest, and I support using the name because I think you all and Robin always said, we build a community, we build a community.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to know who is in your community. And if somebody happens to downvote something or whatever, no, I know we're not supposed to touch on voting, but then we would have an idea of who we should contact to learn from and to do better work for the community.
Although you bring up a little can of worms there, although it's maybe a good one.
Yeah.
that voting is, I think, now anonymous. If someone downvotes a project now or downvotes your vote, I think that's anonymous unless you're an all-star voter, because a lot of people were timid about downvoting a project, which is really important to do, by the way, if it needs to be. It shouldn't be taken as a personal thing. It's just, we need that integrity of the system. But if somebody is not anonymous, we're seeing that people were holding back on downvoting, so we've made it anonymous. So I just wanted to point that out because you'd referenced that, but you had other things that you were sharing there. I just wanted you to know that.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
can I jump in there for just a quick second, guys? Just to add to that conversation, and I'm sorry, Orest, I just want to mention that even when I've downvoted somebody, I have typically I'll leave a comment as to why. So I want them to know, one, it was me and why I did it, to better inform them as to why that actually happened. So I just wanted to jump in real quick just to mention that.
I
That's
love
solid.
that. You know,
Yeah.
in an ideal world, I would want everyone to engage that way, but I know that not, you know, different personality types have different experiences to the same situations, and not everybody was feeling the same way. They were feeling, intimidated by downvoting. I love that. That's how I approach things too. Just like I would want them to know, and I wouldn't have any issue with it. But I respect the fact that other people felt different, and so we didn't want that to get in the way of their downvoting. Now, but you bring up an interesting thing, and I wanted to clarify with Jeremy. Now that it's anonymous to do a downvote, will they'll still see Dan's comment?
Yes, they still see that they had a downvote and the comment. They just don't see the avatar of who sent it.
Okay. So if anybody ever wanted to still let themselves be known for any reason, you could let them know in your comment.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Oris's point is still valid. If you're coming into Discord and having communications about, hey, this is why, by the way, I sent you the downvote or whatever. I think most of the people here want to learn, and that was his point, is that he wants to know why he was downvoted because he'd like to do better. I think most of the people in this community would actually respond well to those downvotes because they take it as a learning opportunity as opposed to a negative thing.
And I think Oris, made a very good point that his whole comment was really centralized around the theme of community. That we're only going to grow as a community if we are communicating together as a community. So even the whole point about making sure that we're attaching the name in parentheses when we're in the Discord, again, I think that's just helpful in terms of keeping with that theme of growing as a community in terms of how we communicate, in terms of the communication.
So let me ask you, playing devil's advocate, let's say that somebody in the community is awesome, doesn't cause any trouble or friction, but they refuse that. What do we do in that situation?
I think having worked in my role as an administrator, at the end of the day, we've got rules that we all have to abide by. And if you don't want to abide by the rules, then obviously
you can't play here.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. And I get that we all want to be nice and whatnot, but even if we're talking about this being online, and we're not talking about a conventional workspace, I'm sorry that some of the principles still apply.
Right.
And if you can't decide to go rogue in your own workplace, and there not be consequences. So here's the thing: if we're the bosses and we're going in, I don't want to put it in that framework, but ultimately there are leaders here, and this is what we're saying. This is what we're doing, to provide parameters and management over the group, and this is what's required. If that's something that you have an issue with, then you know what? Hey, sorry that that's the case, and everybody else is abiding by it. And if you're not willing to, then you're not part of the community. I mean, that's just how. At some point, we have to draw the line.
Yeah, and they also have the option of continuing to contribute value and becoming a bigger voice in changing policy and guidelines of for how the game is played.
So we're all in agreement that if we come across someone, and you guys are all pretty vigilant, and working with Phyllis and all of this too, and like seeing anything like red flags coming up within the community, which is awesome and appreciated. So if anything like that were to come across and we kind of see that from someone who is active, what would be the steps that we take?
Can you repeat again what you mean by that? I'm sorry, I just want to
sorry.
make sure we understand.
If someone comes in and wants to be a part of it, but wants to remain anonymous and doesn't want people to know who they really are, like their identity per se, and they come in and they're like, you guys claim that I could be anonymous. This is crypto. I don't really want to disclose my identity. I don't want anyone to know like the projects I'm posting and the money that I'm saying that I'm gaining. Yeah, and I really don't want you to know who I am.
Just following up.
I think if we start to everybody's going to have their own reasons or I think people may have their own reasons for why they want to or why they don't want to. But ultimately, if we start saying we're going to make concessions here or there for one person or another, then I think we're sacrificing the integrity of the community that we're building, the rules that we're trying to put in place. I mean, right now, let's be honest. I mean, it's a bit easier because our numbers are more manageable.
Yeah.
When we look at 10 times or 100 times the community we have right now, that's when the rules and the parameters, the foundation we're building is really going to matter a lot more because we're going to need it much more then.
Well, and also we were talking about like international, like Jeremy and Mike and I were talking about like really making it clear that this is an international group. So I just would want to I would want support. Personally, I would want to see the community support. Like if people don't understand, to have a way for us to explain to people the benefit, like you're saying, but in their culture, you know what I mean? So I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying.
Oh, absolutely.
We're not talking about like getting to use the dApp or anything. We're just talking about vetting, which is extremely important, high integrity.
Yeah, and I'm just playing devil's advocate in the sense of like being inclusive for people who want to vet and who are awesome at it.
I think
But
the
maybe
whole
like,
point of the winning team is it's not inclusive. I don't know any championship basketball team, any Super Bowl football team that let anyone play on the team.
okay, so we're saying in order to play this game, you need to disclose your real identity.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
Okay.
and you know, again, that's what the point of today's call is. It is one of the
Okay.
points of today's call is to discuss these things and make these decisions. Anybody who's been vetting could be here. If anybody's listening to the replay that's been a strong, you know, played a strong role in vetting, and you feel differently, you know, reach out and you know, let us know. And if there's anyone here now that definitely sees it differently, please speak up. But that's the point of today's call. Go ahead and unmute yourself and say something now, because I agree it's a great idea, but we want to get everybody's, you know, voice on this.
Hey, Mike, aren't we only just talking about using the same name on the dApp and the same name on Discord, not actually your real name? Like my name's
that's correct. The same name. That's correct. And you
yeah,
don't
so it's not.
I don't think you have to use the same name, right, guys? We were just saying in Discord you would put in parentheses what the name was. That you know, if you didn't want to use the same name, you would put in parentheses what the name was that you were using in the Discord. That way, you could still have a different name.
Okay, so if people want to stay anonymous, they would just need to go through their own process of creating a name, and it would be in alignment and sync. So
I didn't quite follow that. I just want to be super clear.
Yeah.
Robin, we need to be super clear. What we're saying is,
Can I state my interpretation of
please,
this?
please, yeah.
Actually, hold on 1 second though, because like Priscilla just brought up something in the chat that I want to address. She's saying, I don't want to change my Discord name because everybody knows me as that, like in different Discords and stuff. You have the ability for this specific Discord to set what people see you as in this specific Discord. So this is not your overall Discord name itself. There's a way to set it just for this group. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
Thank you for that. That's important.
Okay. Okay, so my interpretation of this is that on the Vetter app, I am known as LDN100X. In the Discord, I am LDN. So when I'm in the Discord, what I would do is put in parentheses LDN100X.
Yeah.
So that way people know how to identify me as, you know, as someone on the dApp.
And
Does that make
yeah,
is that correct?
And yeah. My only question is, if somebody sees something on Vetterboard from LDN100X, if they go, if Dan makes that part of his Discord name by putting a parentheses LDN100X in parentheses after LDN, and somebody wants to go talk to him in the Discord, if they enter LDN100X, which is all they would know to enter, will it still come up? And in my example, let's say it's not LDN as his Discord name, because that's obviously very close. Let's say it's something completely different. Would it still come up as long as it's in the parentheses? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Because if not, we're not accomplishing what we're trying to with this. But if so, then it works.
What was the question, Mike? I didn't hear.
When you search for the parenthesis in the Discord, will it come up in the search?
Yeah, I think it includes any part of the name. So I'm pretty sure what's in the parentheses would still pull up that person.
Okay. And
I can try it real quick, but I'm pretty sure it works.
Okay.
I don't think I can edit my name. I don't have Nitro. I don't pay with Nitro. So I'm in my Discord now. And all I can do is
let's earmark this, because there's so much macro stuff to move through. For the moment, let's say that this has been proposed, but it sounds like we have some things to learn.
Yeah, you don't edit your user profile. That, you know, that's the thing.
I'm just concerned, guys. I'm just concerned because we're an hour and a half into this, and there's so much more to discuss. There's so much more to discuss. It's a fantastic conversation, but we could probably spend another 30 minutes just on this. I'm concerned that we're not going to get to other stuff.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think that's been proposed, but we have more stuff to figure out. Let's earmark the final decision on this for the next call, because it's just too much stuff's coming up. It's not as easy as it appeared that it would be to make the decision.
I'll
So-
put it in the chat, guys.
Okay, thank
Okay.
If somebody else was going to say something there, is this an all-star vetter?
Yeah, it's Jay Russia.
Hey, yeah, go ahead.
I believe I heard you saying in the beginning that some people were complaining about feathers doing a poor job. Is that
Ye-
right?
Yeah, I would like to open up that discussion. Somebody had mentioned that on
Yeah.
yesterday's all-star voter call, and I know there was always concerns that, that could happen. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I know they have to do some trial vettings for becoming a trial vetter on the platform, but maybe it's because they are on a lot of eyes in the Discord group. So maybe they do a better job in there than on the platform because no one is watching them so closely. So maybe it's a thing for the All-Star Feathers to do a checkup after some time whenever they are allowed to vet on the Feather platform.
You mean when someone starts as a trial vetter,
Yeah,
you're saying that qualified vetters would check to make sure
yeah,
that they're doing a good job? Yeah,
fine.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that
So the quality stays high for the feathers.
yeah, that came up earlier. I mean, the only concern is the cost to do that. Like, it takes a lot of time for a vetter to do that, and managing that, and it's not easy to do. I love the idea, but implementing it could be quite costly. So I think, I'm not quite sure quickly how to execute something like that without it taking a lot of time and a lot of money. But I like the idea. I mean, it was mentioned earlier too, and I love the idea. I'm just concerned about the cost and how complex it is to execute. I think maybe we arrive at the same thing by just setting up a system where we know who the trial vetters are. Well, I think we just have to we might need a little bit more discussion on how much of an issue is this? Have others seen this issue? Have others seen or been concerned about, is there anyone here that feels like they put a lot of time and energy into their vettings, but you're noticing others are just kind of going through the motions? Is the gentleman here who was here yesterday, I forgot who brought this up on the All-Star voter call. I would just like to have an open discussion on how much of a concern this is in your guys' minds.
I've seen a lot of feathers. I've seen a lot of feathers like Brink. He puts in a lot of work, but it hasn't come across that people are gaming the system with vetting yet. But maybe I've just didn't seen them yet.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm not
No,
sure.
I've seen.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Emily.
Hi, this is Emily. I have seen some vetted posts where I do feel that people aren't putting in the effort. And something else I've noticed too is a lot of people will vet a project that launches in, let's say, several weeks or a month or so out, and they don't come back and update it when there are changes. And I think that it's important that vetters make sure that information is current on the projects that they vet. Otherwise, it'll disservice the community if you've got outdated information, in the vetting.
So something that I've also been noticing when I just go around looking for projects to vet, it is some people literally don't put positives, negatives, like they leave the entire top section but blank, or they just copy the scouts information, and then they may add like shilling information, but like the information that's on pin posts to send people to show, and they'll just pretty much copy and paste that and put that in the comments and other note sections with almost zero information. in the actual vetting sections as well.
Yeah, I'll jump on top of what you're saying, Paul. I know that because you and I both did videos, and I know that in one of my videos I talked about that specifically. What's the irony in that video was that I was like, well, I'm not trying to be hypocritical, because here's one where I actually left, I think it was like the note section, and my vetting wasn't done, but it was in the Scout, and I didn't copy it to the other part. But I did mention that it makes the report look incomplete. So it just, so I think I had recommended to everybody in that video, make sure that every section is complete. Just as Mike, I think in the intro video, when I came into the platform and went through the training, and you were stating that every section, even if you're just stating that, hey, there is no information for this section, there should be something written for every section. So just commenting on what you said, Paul, that definitely, yeah, that is certainly something I've seen as well. I have also seen where someone will just put like a line of something, and they're getting, I know we're not going back into the voting conversation, but they're getting tons of votes, so Mike, I absolutely believe that this is something that is a real issue.
Okay. Yeah, I sense that it probably would be, and that's enough confirmation, your guys' input so far. I'd like to propose that we go ahead and move now on to the next part of the call, which is the compensation side. And it's a big part of this because it's also part of incentivizing, the people that are doing things with with a stellar job, and making sure that those kind of going through the motions more so aren't getting the same kind of compensation. So I want to make sure we have time for that part of the conversation today. But I just wanted to propose that we have another call, that our next call together be specifically only about, we'll do a re-vote, so to speak, on if we're going to require people in the Discord to have either the same name as they're using in the Vetter platform or a parenthesis. We'll revisit that, but I propose that the rest of that call be specifically on identifying what is a high integrity, like what is a high quality vetting post and what isn't, and see if we can create a clear framework that defines that before we start holding people too accountable. Maybe we need more clarity, on what exactly makes a great Vetter post. And then once we have that established, then maybe the next call after that will be, how do we hold people accountable to that? And what's the process for removing somebody as a Vetter? Maybe they get downgraded first, maybe they get 3 warnings. What is the process for warning and then removing someone as a Vetter if they're not meeting that mark?
I agree with you, Mike. I think that the one step that we really need to make sure we take too is communicating, what after we identify what a high quality vetting post looks like, then, getting the communication out, to the vetters so that they know what's expected. And then we can go down the other, continue.
Yeah, the accountability.
Then there's no excuse, and since we're working, we're not going to be flooding new vetters in, because quite frankly, we have quite a few, like you had said. And I think it's a matter of, I don't think anybody wants to do a bad job. I just think that we have a lot of people in the system, that are vetters. And I think what we need to do is do exactly what we're just talking about, be very specific on, what it should be, and make sure that people are specifically know what that is. And then we monitor that accordingly, but we also let them know in advance, that they're going to be monitored. And, if this happens, this will happen. So everybody's very clear on what the process is.
Now for educational and discussion purposes for our next call, Phyllis, do you agree it would be valuable if members of the vetting community, all-star vetters or other vetters, sent to you links to projects on the calendar, old or new, that represent either an excellent vetting job or a poor vetting job, so that we can review those to begin developing a framework for the discussion and identifying what exactly qualifies as either category of that.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that we do it in a specific location because I created a, sorry guys, I did create a channel for that specifically. And
I do feel that they should know that they can be anonymous, though, in terms of when we share that. We're not going to obviously say so-and-so shared this horrible vetting job somebody did. It's not going to be done in that kind of a way. And also, I want to say beforehand, if your vetting example is given, please see it as a service and a way to take maybe, a job that you maybe didn't intentionally to be, an example for maybe a poor vetting job. Please see it as an opportunity for that to have great value to the community. I got to just say right now, and I think this falls upon, falls back to what Dan was saying, like, we have, or maybe it was somebody else that was saying that, yeah, that they don't mind, like, I think it was you, Dan, that you don't mind it being known that you were, downvoting something and you're being helpful and this is important. I think we need the vetters to be in the spirit of that kind of collaboration. So I just wanted to say that, like, I understand that some people, could feel, embarrassed or something like this. We've got to get rid of that. And I just want to speak to it. We've got to get rid of that and just see this as an opportunity. I do a poor job all the time in all kinds of things. And when I do it and I see it, like, obviously I don't like it, but I'm not afraid to use it as an example, to share and for everyone to learn from it. And that turns it into something positive. I just want to say that's an extremely important part of a team or an individual growing and learning, that kind of fearless. And by the way, fearlessness doesn't mean you don't feel uncomfortable or that you don't feel fear. It means you feel the fear and do it anyway. That level of fearlessness, I think, should be a part of what the spirit of the vetters are. So I just wanted to speak to that for those that may feel that. It's not about picking on anybody. It's about using this opportunity to learn and grow together. So
I absolutely agree with you, Mike.
Thank you.
And it was me that had mentioned that. I just wanted to mention that I get it, that there are a lot of people where they kind of feel like it's not a comfortable thing to do. It's just not, because it kind of feels confrontational to some degree, but it's not what it's meant to be. Right. I think, and the reason why I say that I'm way okay with people knowing is because at the end of the day, when we think back to what the vision is for this, if we're going to be the top research tool to use for crypto projects, at the end of the day, there has to be, a willingness, from us who are leading the way to go ahead and say that we want to make sure that we have the highest quality product. And it's not just about the dApp, but it's about the people that are involved in this community, bringing this to where we need it to go. So that means that, hey, we have to have a certain bar, for the people that, are here, vetting the projects, scouting the projects, voting on the projects. And there's nothing wrong with that. All it means to me is that it reiterates the fact that this is important. So we get beyond, how uncomfortable we are, and we do it for the greater good.
Absolutely. Like if I'm a freshman I keep coming back to these sports analogies because I think everybody understands the importance of this in sports. Like everyone accepts it there, but somehow those that haven't been a part of like champion level or stellar organizations and teams like in business or wherever else don't always correlate the connections, but the sports metaphors often everyone relates to. If somebody's a high school freshman basketball player and they go to make a layup and they do a poor layup and their form is all wrong and everything else, it's a good thing and not a bad thing for the coach to blow their whistle, stop the practice, and to show that player in front of everybody how to do a proper layup. That's not a bad thing. It's actually a very positive and constructive thing. And those that are afraid of that, those that don't want that to happen, just will never be able to improve much as a basketball player, or in this case as a bettor, and the entire team will suffer for it. So yeah, anyway.
We're here to help you.
I
Absolutely.
just wanted to interject something here as well. In the experience that we've had, over the last 6 months, with, training and mentoring and all that, there's never been one time where someone has been offended. They have been so gracious, wanting feedback, wanted to know, like, hey, take a look at this. How does this, I just got another one today, so I think that part is going to be welcoming. I think the part that may be a little tricky is the reporting aspect. I think people will feel uncomfortable reporting. I don't think the people that are receiving the information are going to have any problem with it, because they look for that information now, if that makes sense. Like
Right.
every day somebody's reaching out and saying, I just check out my vet. That's how Brink became, really doing so well, because he reached out and said, look at my stuff, tell me what you think.
But Phyllis,
And-
don't we have a place where people can report without it being seen?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and that's what I was going to suggest, is that I have in the better support channel, there is a reporting section, and I'll make sure, and Mike, you can just double check me, because I'm still new at all the Discord stuff, but just, we can do it where people can submit information there. But
Do you remember which channel that was?
it would, yeah, I'm looking at it. It's better support, and it's under reporting.
Under reporting. Okay. Yeah. You go ahead and finish. Sorry, interrupted.
I just wanted to make sure that, yeah, there is a way where people can actually, see what was reported, but doesn't necessarily, I think there's a way of you not being identified, I think. But
Yeah.
I think we need your help just to make sure that, we have that set up correctly.
Has anyone posted in there so far?
I don't think so, no.
So you guys could just do a test. Everyone can go type in, I'm testing this under better support reporting. And you should only see what you posted. You shouldn't be able to see what anyone else posted. So like JP, do you see JB's comment, or just your own?
I see both.
Oh, you guys are all-star vetters, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we would have to ask somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, JB isn't an all-star vetter.
JB is okay.
Can
So
you see JB's?
Oh, she says she sees
Yeah,
everybody's.
Yeah, then I don't have it set up right.
I'll go check right now, and then we'll move.
Okay, because I'm not really, I'm still kind of
View channel,
learning.
send messages, attach files. So it must be under roles. So right now, yeah, read message history. So, whoever you don't want to see it, you have to uncheck read message history. So anyway, we'll work on that, Phyllis, but I can see why they can see it. If they're an
Okay.
insider, they can see it because it's check marked for insiders to see message history. And
Okay, well, we need to fix that. And that was one of the things I want when we were going to talk this afternoon. I wanted to ask the question on that, because I'm just not, I'm getting there, but
Yeah.
it's just,
we'll schedule, yeah, we'll follow up on that. And then, so guys, you'll be able to report it there and no one else will see it. You only see your own posts. You won't see other posts. We'll schedule the next session to discuss that once we have collected enough from you guys, enough examples of great vetter posts and vetter posts that definitely need some work. So we can start to teach on this topic and start to develop a framework that's really clear. And then we'll have the next call after that, we'll figure out accountability to it so we can really increase quality. Let's now move forward to the compensation and incentivization. The last part of today's discussion. And by the way, thank you everybody so far who've been able to contribute. And for those that, have stayed through all of this, as we move forward, I expect these calls to become shorter and shorter and more focused. Again, kind of going back to what I was open this up with, we decrease the amount that vetters make. By the way, Jeremy, it says yellow makes 100 vetter. It should be 10 vetter. Is that just not displayed here correctly, or that didn't get changed?
I think that was just a mistake in the update.
Gotcha. Okay.
I can fix it.
Okay. Yeah. Let's definitely make that 10 better. So, again, the reason why this was lowered was so that we could get this clarity and this accountability in place, and not just have a ton of VEDR being paid out to people who may or may not be bringing value to the platform. Once we get this clarity on what qualifies as a good vetting post, et cetera, and we have accountability in place, then we can relook at this. In the meantime, I would like to open up the discussion now for how we, ways we can, properly, we can compensate vetters that have a track record of doing a great job. The voting was supposed to identify who's doing a great job and who isn't, but we're seeing a lot of people vote favorably up until now, even on vetting projects that maybe, weren't up to par, and likely that's because a lot of people are just trying to move up the ranks as a voter. And until the voting, we spent a lot of time yesterday, we got a lot of follow-up to do, but there's a lot already in place so that the voting integrity is 100%. And when the voting integrity is 100%, a lot of that is going to get the color ranking properly reflecting who's doing a great job vetting, maybe who's doing an okay job vetting, maybe who's doing a poor job vetting. Also a part of that, of course, will be getting clarity on what dictates poor vetting, good vetting versus great vetting. So again, we're making strides so that the color coding will soon properly reflect the quality of the vetting. It's not there yet. We knew when we launched this, it wouldn't just instantly arrive there. We needed to get engagement. We needed to get people using it. And then we needed to look at what was happening and look at the behavior, and then use the tools that we have, like we've discussed today, to start correcting that quality assurance. The Vetters Trading Club was one of the ways we wanted to incentivize vetters who did a good job vetting. We haven't arrived there for two reasons. One, the quality of vetting is still being determined, right? That's why we just spent all that time on this. We're going to continue spending time on that, because once that's really clear and we know who the vetters are that are meeting the higher standard, then we can start to talk about, okay, how do we approach compensating them, exceptionally well for that, and separate them from those who can't. That's why I spent so much time addressing that first. And even in summarizing this, it's such an important point to understand what we have to figure out, before the Vetters Trading Club can even be considered. So that's number one. And maybe that's what Robin meant by B&B, because that moves in, I'm not sure, but that moves into number two, which is, in order for the Vetter Trading Club to work, and for those that need a refresher, the Vetter Trading Club was one of the ways we were going to reward those who did a stellar job, which again, we're still determining, by selling Vetter on the open market that from the Vetter trading pool, and then working together to trade that B&B. So we'd sell Vetter for B&B, and then working together in a trading club to trade that, and then to decide when we want to take profits, and divvying that up between the qualifying vetters. Again, I want to underscore qualifying vetters, and that's what we're trying to figure out, so we can arrive at these higher tier compensation strategies like the Vetter Trading Club. The challenge is we don't want to sell Vetter from the Vetter Trading Club unless we're in price momentum. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to, degrade the value of Vetter by selling it on the open market. Now, when we initially were conceptualizing the Vetter Trading Club, it was anticipated that, some smart contracts will automatically sell the 5% or whatever the percentage is. In fact, let's just open that up really quick. 1 second, guys. So I get the percentages right. So these percentages that go to the Vetter pool and the participatory pool and all of this, a lot of the BSC projects out there that, that have attacks that go towards these different things, with every buy and sell order, their contract will automatically sell on the open market their native token, in our case Vetter, and turn it into BNB. So these pools will be collecting in BNB. When we originally were developing this, we wanted to innovate a new type of solution so that wouldn't be the case. We were trying to figure out, is there a way where when somebody purchases Vetter, instead of the contract doing what a lot of contracts do, where it takes these percentages in Vetter on the buy or sell order and then automatically sells that Vetter or whatever the native token is into BNB. Instead of that, we wanted to set it up where these percentages were taken from the BNB. And I don't want to make this too complicated, but we were trying to set it up where we weren't selling Vetter on the open market. The tax was done before the Vetter was purchased, so that it just went to BNB without having to become Vetter and then be sold to BNB. The reason why we wanted to do it that way, and some of you that have been around the BSC projects a while will know what I mean when I say this, like Everrise was an example of this and so many others. Every time there was a buy and sell order on these projects that do it that way, that, turn it into BNB with every buy and sell order, you would see all these sell orders happening all the time. So when you see the buy and sell order list, it doesn't look very good. And there was constant questions from people like, why is there so many sells? And people would always come in and say, those aren't actual sells from people. That's the contract selling, to build the tax pools. We didn't want to set it up that way. We didn't like the way that was perceived. We didn't like the confusion that created, the constant questions around it that it created. And so we were trying to set it up where there wouldn't be a bunch of sell orders to build the BNB pools. There would be, it would happen before it was turned into the native token anyway, to avoid all that. After extensive research and so forth, it was determined that there was just no way, which is why these other ones do it as well. There was just no solution that we could find to doing it differently, that if we were going to have the contract automatically turn Vetter into, if we were going to have it automatically build these pools in BNB, which would allow us to have the Vetter Trading Club, most easily. If we were going to do it that way, we were going to have the contract automatically selling with every buy and sell order, selling Vetter on the open market to turn the tax pools into BNB. And we just, and Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that one of the nails in the coffin on, not doing it where it would automatically sell, that was one thing we did not like, it displaying that way, all these sell orders all the time, like these other projects do. But wasn't also another reason that there just wasn't room in the smart contract? We had so much built into this. That was one of the things that we decided, since we didn't really like the idea of that anyway, we would take that out of the contract, or I can't remember if that was one of the things that we decided to remove.
Yeah, it added too much to the gas for any given buy and sell.
That's right. It increased the gas. So every transaction would have had a higher gas fee, and we wanted to do everything we could to decrease gas prices. So we opted to build these pools in Vetter instead of having the sells always happening. And we would then need to sell these, in order to turn them into BNB, which may be what Robin was referring to.
Yeah.
But so after going through all the detail on that, there's two factors that we need to work out before employing the Vetter trading pool. One is we need to figure out exactly what qualifies as a quality vetting so that we can have accountability to that, so that those that are doing quality vetting get the higher tier compensation rewards like the Vetter trading pool, and those that aren't doing a good job, don't meet those standards, wouldn't obviously qualify for those higher tier incentives. And then secondly, once we've determined that, we need to decide, do we want to employ the Vetter trading pool concept where we sell Vetter on the open market from this pool, turn it into BNB, and then work together, as we discussed, to trade and try to increase that and then divvy up the rewards. Do we want to do that, or do we want to just take a percentage of what's in the Vetter trading pool? I mean, we'll always want to leave enough in there to make sure there's enough Vetter to perform, daily tasks, on the platform, because we're paying out of these all the time. Vetter's coming out of both the participatory pool and the Vetter pool every moment as people are, voting, vetting, and scouting. It's coming out of one of these. We need to always make sure there's a buffer in there. At the time, last night, Jeremy mentioned there was like 26 million Vetter in the Vetter pool. There was like 80 million in the participatory pool. I should mention that there is one item, and that is voting on scout posts that was intended to come out of the participatory pool, but that's coming out of the Vetter pool. So we will count for that and make sure that, some of the rewards that come to properly incentivizing the high quality Vetters will be able to be drawn from the participatory pool from that amount that is being taken from the Vetter pool for scout votes, because that was supposed to come from the participatory pool. So there's actually more in the Vetter pool than the 26 million. But we always want to leave enough buffer in there, obviously, because if it ever got down to zero or anything close to that, then we wouldn't be able to pay for a bunch of different things like vetting that are happening on the platform. But this is what we will draw from to incentivize and properly compensate the qualifying Vetters. The question will become, once we've identified what is a quality vetting, which I think we need to figure out pretty quickly so we can move forward on this, the question will then become, once we know who the qualifying Vetters are, do we want to do the voter trading club, or will we just compensate them from the pool with Vetter, to trade to use how they want to? When we proposed the Vetter trading club, it was always stated that this may be administratively, not possible to execute. I still think it is possible to execute. I think we just need to be super clear and make sure who the qualifying Vetters are, though, before we even delve into it, because we don't want to be divvying up a bunch of Vetter to people that aren't meeting the standards and not bringing the value to the dApp. So we need to establish that, I think, quickly, create accountability to that, find out who our qualifying Vetters are, and then we'll tackle that question and see where the price is. Like, if the price is moving up, we're turning on marketing. So as the price is moving up, we might feel quite comfortable doing that. Or maybe at that time, with you guys helping make the decision, we may decide it's better just to divvy up Vetter to the qualifying Vetters. So, again, pretty comprehensive. There was a lot to run through there. Emphasis on identifying who the qualifying Vetters are. We've got a process in play now to do that. And again, I emphasize we should do it quickly so that we can, have proper incentives to those that are qualifying, whether we're going to employ the Vetter trading pool and turn it into BNB and then trade that together, or whether we're just going to divvy up a large amount of what's in the pools to the qualifying Vetters. So, I think that does it. Again, it definitely is a lot, but I think that covers everything. Jeremy or Robin, anything else? Jeremy, you were a part of the comprehensive discussions that led up to this development a lot. So I'll go to you first. Is there anything I missed, or any ideas or thoughts that might add to what I shared there that everyone should know that is under consideration for this?
No, I was just going to mention the one piece that you already covered. So yeah, I think you got it all.
Okay. And then Robin, anything that you would like to add or ask around that?
Oh, no, I just like to clarify things so people can feel confident in chiming in. So I would just say, I would just like to hear from those of you who feel like, I don't want to say like you deserve more compensation, but but to feel like, wow, I've been rewarded. I'm curious, like how you would feel, well compensated, or like, wow, this is a place where I want to stay and I feel really good being here. It feels like this is a generous place to be. I'm doing a really, really, really great job, and I'm being compensated, or I'm being additionally valued in this way. I'm just curious, like what you guys feel would have you feel like you're appreciated.
But to be super clear, vetters are going to basically decide all of this. Like what is owed to vetters goes to vetters. But I think everyone, particularly those doing a phenomenal job as vetting, are probably in agreement that we want to make sure those that are qualifying vetters, that's identified and clear so that they can be
Right.
compensated. So, but
Right.
yeah, you guys ultimately get to decide all of this.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'd like to hear from people who maybe haven't spoken.
Yeah, go ahead, guys. Just unmute yourself and chime in with questions or ideas.
I have a question, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we were to, I'm just looking at what the price of BNB is, and in comparison to the vetter, which would keep our market cap at a better space? If you sell your vetter to buy BNB, would it be the same?
Well, whenever you sell vetter, to BNB, you're going to lower the market cap.
Exactly.
And again, I want to be clear that most projects that have, and there's a lot of them that have tax setups, they do, they build that into the contract to do it all day long. So they're constantly, lowering their market cap with every buy and sell. Again, we opted not to do that because it increases the gas prices. We have so many other features and things built into our dApp that other projects don't even, most projects that have this kind of stuff don't even provide value with their dApp. It's just like a little short-term money game or something. But
Right.
we have real purpose for the taxes. So, we have a lot in our contract that increases the gas prices because it's doing a lot. And we opted not to do this for the two reasons I described. The perception is pretty negative when you see all these sell orders happening all day automatically that most projects do. And it just increased the gas price, which, as you guys know, we want to do everything to combat that. So we didn't do it automatically.
So then increasing the vetter's bag would be a win-win for both sides then, right?
Yeah. It may well be what everyone decides is more advantageous for everybody involved. I mean, because then you get to invest it how you want to. What all we lose is that kind of that group fun concept of working together to invest, the pool together. But maybe the cost of that outweighs the benefit.
Right. Okay.
And maybe we can accomplish the same thing through AMAs and discussions about what we're investing into, right?
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So to be clear, the same amount of vetter that would have gone to be turned into BNB and then traded in the Vetters Trading Club is the same amount of vetter that we could just divvy up as vetter to, those that should be rewarded. Did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we're going to change the definition of people who were supposed to be in the portfolio A, before it was people who had qualified as a vetter before a certain date, and now I guess it's changing. Are we going to have time?
I don't recommend that it changes. I recommend that the vetters now work together, and I'm moderating that, helping with that. The vetters work together to determine what it takes to remain as a vetter. Obviously, there's some standards that we always knew you guys would be determining to remain as a vetter. But everyone here has everyone here has an opportunity to chime in on that and to decide that and to live up to it, whatever it is you guys decide.
So I guess the standards to become a vetter
I don't think anything's changing. It's just there were steps. I want to hear what you have to say. I just want to make sure that it's clear that there were steps for people to get here. And then now that you guys are here, you guys get to work together to figure out what one needs to do to remain here, and all the little details of how accountability is brought to that. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I just wanted to make sure that if things were changing, that there's time for, if you didn't meet that you had a couple days to, do a few more good vettings or whatever it is, so that you don't miss out on that. Or
yeah, I would agree. I would agree that, and again, you guys get to ultimately decide, but I would agree that it makes sense that unless somebody was blatantly gaming the system or, discovered to be doing something just ridiculous, which you guys could define, people should probably be given an opportunity, right, to make any adjustments once clarity is brought to the accountability process for what is deemed a high quality vetting, right? Like that's what you're saying. It would make sense to me. I'm open to other people's input, of course.
Yeah, and it was hard to become a vetter. You had to jump through hoops, and I'm sure it still is hard now, unless that's changed. I'm not sure, but it should be hard to get to that vetter level.
Yeah, people actually, there's no way for someone to become a vetter now. You guys that made it are it. And, in the future, remember when you guys let in more vetters, you're diluting the pool. So, now that you guys are the only vetters, you have a real opportunity as this grows and expands, to do phenomenally well with it. And you may decide, and again, so that might be another reason why, another advantage, as long as you guys are able to do enough vetting to facilitate the need, to not just let anybody and everybody in, right? To really make it so that high quality people are coming in and not just a huge number of people are coming in. So you guys are it. Like nobody has been able to become a vetter for some time. So no one's confused. There may be stragglers that have been going through the process that, maybe have been in communication with us. Maybe they got sick or something serious happened. So you might still see one or two. I don't know. To my knowledge, there is no one else that can get in, but maybe there's somebody that's been going through the process that's almost qualified. But to my knowledge, nobody else can get in. If you do see that, it's only because there's some kind of communication happening between our admin that, there was an understanding that they've already started the long process of becoming a veteran. They're almost done. And maybe something just happened in their family or something, just so nobody's confused if one more gets added or something. But to my knowledge, nobody else has been added for some time and nobody else will be. You guys are it at this time, unless, we open it up. I did foresee, some people here now might drop off or whatever. There probably does need to be a process like we talked about earlier that would allow new vetters to come in, but you guys will have a control over that.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
I think it might be difficult for some of us to maybe come up with ideas on the spot, here on the call, for what the criteria qualifications are.
Yeah.
So maybe similar to like yesterday on the all-star voter. I know John A had some amazing, pinpoints that we put on a document. So maybe if you give us a chance to do something like that and kind of collaborate with each other, and then we can put it in front of you guys.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I just want you guys to know, like, it really is in your, you guys have contributed a lot to this project, and the vision of Vetter. I mean, I'm sure you heard, us say this a long time ago, but I just wanted to reinforce the vision of Vetter was always that the early contributors would have a lot of, really collectively have say in, what happens with your group, and in this case, the vetting group and the vetting pool. We do have to be completely clear, we have a foundation in place, and we have right now just 3 people in the foundation who, Jeremy, myself, Robin, who vote on issues. We had an informal vote from the community, just reiterating, and I think we should formalize it soon. In fact, we have on the schedule a date to do that. to formalize from those that participated in the private cell right now, those were the people will be taking, that input from, to just, to create a formalized vote for us continuing with the marketing. And this could fall under the marketing umbrella, although the foundation, will be determining, a lot of things like that as we go forward. My point is we're going to be adding more people to the foundation, a lot more people to the foundation, weighing in on that voting. And some of you who've been big time contributors will probably be among those that could be nominated. And you could choose whether to or not to participate. And we can talk more about what it means to be a council member on the foundation. I think there's going to be all kinds of incredible opportunities for those who are excited about the crypto market to be in there. So we'll have more on that too. I just want you to know there's a foundation that could right now, veto what you guys decided. If it was something like, hey, we decided we want to drain the vetter pool, and take it down to zero.
Take it all, yeah.
Yeah. And we're gone, if we thought it was going to completely destroy the project, the foundation does have the ability to nix that. I can't imagine anyone in the vetter group, let alone an anonymous or a unanimous number of them, ever wanting to do something that would be detrimental. I just wanted you to know that. But we are building more, we're adding more council members to the foundation, so there'll be a lot more voices. Some of you maybe end up being among those. And in the meantime, I just want you to know, except for some extreme, wild, I can't even imagine situation where, unanimously the vetters were trying to destroy the project. You guys have all say in what we do on these matters with the vetter pool and with the vetter quality assurance process, and we'll guide that, but I think it gives more power and strength to the community at large, to the vetter community and the greater community. I think it gives significantly more strength to the foundation, which we'll have a separate call about, how all the different places that can go and the benefits for both those on the council and those just participating in the community, the value that can have. And I think it gives a greater value to the dApp itself, to those just using the dApp, to give the vetters, the larger voice in directing what happens with the vetter pool and the vetter project. Does anybody have any thoughts on that, just in general? Does that ring true to you guys too? Are there concerns around that? I just want to make sure we hear everyone on all these topics.
Hey, Mike, this is Ryan.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, I had just a clarifying question. Is this something that we would get to decide every month, how this works, or is this once we decide, that's how it is from here on out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we are going to have a more formal process for how things get proposed, just so there's structure and how things get voted on, both for the greater community and for the vetter community, niched community itself. But for now, I think we're just going to have a lot of these kinds of discussions. And even what you just said, like, I would just offer, to reword it as a proposal. Like, go ahead and kind of, if you want to propose that, that for at least a period of time, the rules and guidelines are malleable, you know what I mean? And or if you want to propose that once something's decided, it gets decided for a year, like, you can propose that. I foresaw, us just kind of sculpting this, you guys sculpting this. Like, for example, our next session is going to be about what does qualify as a quality vetting and what doesn't. And then what accountability measures, we'll have another call shortly after, what accountability measures can we do to make sure that we're able to know who the ones qualifying are, so that we can now properly reward and incentivize those, and then give people a path that maybe got a warning or whatever, that maybe isn't quite in that group yet, give them a chance to get in that group. As we formulate all that and crystallize all of that, I think at the time that the final decision is made, like whatever decisions are made in the next call, for example, I think at that time you guys would include in that decision, and we can, we'll help you guys with this, just like with asking the questions and everything, because we've obviously thought a lot about all of this stuff. You would decide is, will we look at this decision in 3 months, or we look at this decision in 6 months? Like, you guys can define you know, how long a particular decision lasts.
Or if it doesn't work for you or you see a glitch in it, you would bring it up in a meeting, or you would request a meeting with the team and say, hey, something's off here. Let's revisit this, you know?
Right. I
Like,
would,
you
yeah,
had
I
a
would
right.
necessarily be a little malleable at first, right? As we're kind of figuring all this out.
Right, of course.
Yeah, there's like documentation that we're in, you know, as of this moment, we're in the process of formulating documentation so that when we collectively come together, like Mike said, if someone was sick, or, you know, someone's a little bit slower, or, you know, just needs more support and understanding the process, or just wants to have, like, I like to have validity written out, documentation written out to help me understand a process. You know, that's kind of where we're at in terms of formulating. But as Mike said, it doesn't mean that it can't be adapted as we grow. And that's what you guys are here for, is to like bring up in meetings or to request meetings that you actually want things to shift or change, or you have an idea or some, you know, it's like, so it's kind of like creating the standard of efficacy in terms of how the process and procedures and guidelines are met, and what like the expectations are. And then to build upon that, and then to rework that as we grow as a community.
But
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we take it one step at a time. So for example, next meeting, identifying what qualifies as high integrity vetting, what doesn't. Next, you know, and then whatever decisions are made there, you know, that's, I would suggest that they be, you know, they be changeable. Like we revisit it in a month or something after seeing how it's working, or maybe even in 2 weeks or something. But we could decide that at the end of that next call. And then the next call would be, okay, now how do we hold people accountable to those? So it's just kind of this progression that I think if we stay on top of, we can move through pretty quick, and everyone could feel like they really have a voice in it. And it gives people an opportunity to be accountable to, you know, the clear rules that are set up in that next meeting of what makes a good vetting and all that good stuff. But I think it is step by step, right? You know, how do you eat an elephant, you know, one bite at a time type thing.
Right, right. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Jeremy, is there any input you can provide on, you know, how you might recommend a process that gives structure to this? Should it just be as simple as, you know, we hold the next meeting and maybe everyone does a vote who attends? Is there anything? I remember one time when we did an informal vote a few weeks ago with those that were in the private sale, you know, somebody said, well, you know, we weren't really notified, you know, of this. Like, do you want to just kind of run through maybe some things to keep in mind that we could do to make people feel, you know, properly informed, to be, who want to be involved in, that are in the vetter pool, that are in the vetter group, you know, to support this process so they can see a structure?
Yeah, so I mean, at the meeting that you're referring to, we brought up the idea of potentially using something like Robert's Rules of Order, which is, you know, used by many clubs, governments, organizations, et cetera, as kind of a default standard way of doing things. But yeah, that the general idea there is you inform people that there's going to be decisions so that they have an opportunity to be there or have some way to voice what their input is. If they can't be at that particular meeting where any formal votes are going to be taken, then they can provide comments to be read during the discussion period, and then formal votes are taken, and you move on. And anybody that's in the group has the ability to raise proposals, like you said, that can change, you know, even if something is set up as this is the way things are going to be. Anybody that's part of that group and is part of the conversation for making formal changes to something, they can still propose that, you know, this thing that was decided before, you know, isn't really working for us. Let's have a discussion about how we want to change it moving forward. And it can still be addressed. So everybody has a say, everybody has a way to come in and make decisions and put some, you know, formalization behind a vote. And you don't have to have like an app or We don't have to be at the point where we're at a DAO or anything along those lines to still make some progress here. We just have to let people know when the actual formal votes are going to be, and they have their ability to be part of a meeting like this, and we can decide, is it, you know, the raising of the hands in the app, is it everybody kind of voicing, and that's up to the group to kind of say, here's the rules we agree to that seems fair enough for everybody in this kind of disperse. Everybody's meeting on a Zoom style instead of being around a boardroom where everybody can, you know, raise their hand or say aye in a boardroom. It's a little easier. So we just have to adapt to technology so that we can make this a global, you know, worldwide, be able to meet on something like a Zoom and still move forward and have everybody be able to have their say in it.
And I can nominate myself as secretary for the next meeting, or someone, if I'm not available, can nominate themselves as secretary for the meeting to take notes that can start maybe like a Google Doc that we all share in terms of like notes and what was decided. That would be my suggestion.
I would recommend that for now, we just provide the replay to the call so that there's not that extra burden of time. Is my recommendation. I mean, I know. Go ahead.
I also like the idea that the call itself represents the documentation, so that we don't have to have an extra formal written documentation.
Okay.
So many things to do. So anything.
Can I have a request? It's
Yeah.
JP.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. As far as what Kurt said, as far as collaborating and the Discord, can we have a vetters trading club where just vetters can talk and collaborate about this before we have the call?
Phyllis, I think that's, you guys have already kind of gotten something like that started where vetters are communicating or
Oh yeah, we have we have the All-Star Vetter channel. We just have to make sure that it's, you know, set up properly so that other people can chime in for sure. But I also think, you know, the process, I mean, just throwing it out there, is the process that we kind of used for what we were looking at in regards to the voters support, you know, the voters support program that we talked about yesterday. We could do something very similar, you know, and have that you know, Google Doc in that channel, real simple, and then everybody can start to, you know, we can start gathering information about, you know, what does a quality vetter, what does that look like? You know, and that's just, I mean, that's something that's on the top of my head. But yes, there is, that's what the vetter support group is for. Yeah, it's, I mean, we have it there now.
Yeah, I wanted the channel where it's just, you know, veteran vetters that qualify. Not, you know, I don't know if trial vetters qualify, and, you know, not just the all-star vetters, but, you know, all total vetters that qualify.
So Phyllis, you know, I'll let you guys decide that.
Yeah, sure. We can, you know, I'll look in, you know, we can talk
suppose
about
all-star vetters can discuss that, right? And
yeah,
then,
we can.
yeah, yeah. Does that sound good, JP? Like, start the conversation with the all-star vetters, since you guys have been working together already, and then you guys can decide how to facilitate expanding that conversation if you guys decide to.
Yep, we can do that for sure.
We can
Thank you.
definitely do that. Absolutely.
Well, guys, we've been on. Let's see. We started at 11 Pacific, so good job. 2.5 hours. My brain's a little fried. A great input today. If you have additional input that you want to provide, I would suggest, bring it to the all-star vetters. Bring it up in the next session. We're gonna have a lot more sessions, but I think they will get shorter and shorter. I don't know if it's going to happen in the next one, but soon. I see them becoming very succinct and specific to certain topics as we, tighten the screws on all of this stuff. And I just want to thank everybody who's contributed to this. I want everyone to realize that while we do want to be inclusive, right, like and give everyone an opportunity that's earned a right to be here, at the same time, my recommendation to you guys, which are ultimately making the decisions on these things, my recommendation is, definitely, hold a high standard to what it means to be a vetter. it could, because that's going to have a huge impact on the value of everything Vetter is, and which, by the way, doesn't have to just end with, just Vetter. All kinds of collaborations and new opportunities spring out of successful collaborations and winning teams. So I just think there's so much to be gained and to win here. Not just what you can learn through the collaboration and stuff, not just what you can gain through a successful Vetter dApp, but also with what can arise from, from from a really effective collaboration. But anyway, thank you again. I'll wait to hear back from you, Phyllis, on when we're ready to schedule that next session. So it's kind of in your guys' hands on how soon you want that to be. I think it sounds like the conversation, Phyllis, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the conversation will start between the all-star vetters to kind of figure out how to include other voices into that conversation, or if or how you want to do that.
Yep, exactly. Well, I'm going to set something up like right after this call.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. And Phyllis, I got to go work on a few things to prepare marketing and all kinds of things, but we'll touch base later today as well. Just make sure you're, get the rest that you need and everything. I know you're still getting over that. Just whatever. Don't worry about, don't overextend. That's all. It's
and yeah, you guys, I'm so excited. Like, as we start ads and like business, partnerships and like influencer agreements and like all these cool things that are coming forth, like things are gonna like exponentially take off and happen very quickly. So when we're at this kind of calm before the storm situation, like, take advantage of learning and growing, and
now's the time.
Now's the time. Yeah. And we value your, I don't want to say opinion, but we value like your viewpoints, and like your insights and wisdom. And I've received a lot of messages from people with really good ideas. So that's what's going to help the community move forward beyond just advertising and marketing. It's like the community is going to be the glue that holds it together beyond that, so that advertising and marketing just supports that, but isn't like the only thing that grows the community.
Hey, Robin, real quick, Paul's got a question.
Hey guys, real quick. So I just wanted to know, well, since this is off topic of vetting, if we got knocked down to beige today with the update data of the new points, will we still be in the royalty pool?
Yes.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the Telegram, that you still would qualify. If you hit green at all, you're in the smart contract. Therefore, you will get royalties.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. All right. Thanks again, guys. Looking forward to our next one, and building that clear compensation incentive for those that meet the high standards of being a vetter. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be really rewarding. And I'd like to see us get there really, really fast. Like it's in your hands now of how fast you guys want to go, but it could be, days or a week away. It doesn't need to take more than that in my mind. So I'll wait to hear back from you, Phyllis, on that, and we'll connect on some other things as well today. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Appreciate you guys.